So I'm super, super excited because today we're going to talk about marriage. This is the marriage edition of Say Something. It's my first time doing a show with my husband, and we have a lovely couple here with us that's going to talk about communication, life transitions, and how you do that as a couple. So I'm super excited to hear what they have to say. I will see you guys on the set.
Everybody's here now. We got something to talk about. Just have to see, yeah, we're gonna talk it out. Say something, that's what we're gonna do.
Welcome to another episode of Say Something with Cheré. I'm Chris King, and this is my wife,
Ebony King, and we are so excited to be here today. We are going to talk about navigating life as a married couple. Babe, I'm so excited. Do you have any idea what they're going to ask us?
I have no idea. I'm nervous. Don't know what we're going to say, but we'll figure it out.
I just need you to say something, baby.
Hi! So good to see you. Hello, Chris. Oh my God, I'm so excited to have you guys here today on Say Something with Cheré. How are you feeling?
Good. Good.
Nervous.
Ebony, you are not nervous.
I am always nervous.
Well, I'm glad to have you, so loosen up because we're going to talk about marriage. And I'm excited to learn more about your marriage. I love how you put each other first. And I know we'll get all into it, but I went to the Tabitha tea party, and the way Chris introduced you, I went home and told Patrick, this is how you say it when you talk about
Yeah. You put it, the bar high.
Now, Chris, I don't know if you get that often, but I came home. So this is how stuff gets started in marriages. You go somewhere else and you see them doing it, and you're like, I know my husband doing good, but he ain't doing good in this area. So, honey, how would you introduce me? That's what I came home to see.
And I didn't have an answer at the time. I would just let them know who you are, and that wasn't enough. Well, I just left from, and she told me what it was, and I was like, okay, all right, don't worry, I will have that together for you.
So do you have it now?
Yeah.
You put me on the spot.
You want to try it?
I didn't say that. I just chilled.
You'll see it on the next episode. I'll be the one to introduce her.
Okay, that's awesome.
I'm holding him to that, yeah. I'm holding him to that. So I know this is your first time meeting my husband. So this is Patrick. Patrick, this is Chris and Ebony.
Hello. I told him earlier, I've seen him do a couple of 1-2 steps.
Oh, yeah. We got to get you guys on our TikTok, too. We got to get them on there. Dance with us.
You don't dance?
If that's what you call it.
You got 2 left feet, 2 right feet.
I can stay on beat, but I can just.
But that's all you got to do. Now, I seen y'all dancing with the kids and stuff. Like, y'all did a little Soul Train. Was it Soul Train y'all dressed up? Yeah.
I could do a little.
No, you can dance. We know.
I got 3 kids.
Okay. You had the hula hoop. Somebody taught you something. So I want to talk to you guys about communication. Just where I started at. Coming home to my husband saying, oh, he did this for her, right? But that doesn't mean that my relationship or my marriage isn't good with my husband. He's amazing to me. But I took that one, you're right, you're welcome, honey. I took that one thing and I began to compare it. And I think that's what happens in couples. We do a lot of date night with people. And every time we do a date night, it is guaranteed that either he or her will call one of us with some type of comparison. Or sometimes the female, she will do it right there while we're dating, like, why don't you do that?
Yes.
And I think it's so degrading and disrespectful. So then, like, how would you communicate that to your spouse if they're just not performing in a certain area? Not that it's good or bad, but how do you communicate something in that instance?
It's 2 parts to that, right? The first part is the comparison piece. I've learned, we've been married how many years now? 11 years.
It's not often the man knows, but
I know. We've been married 11 years, and I've learned that our marriage has its own personality. Just like I have my own personality together as a couple, we have our own style, we have our own language. Like, we have jokes, and other people might hear them. If they're in our house, they feel like, y'all talk to each other crazy, but we have our own style, we have our own way of engaging with each other. So I learned very early to not do the comparison game. And it was actually because it was having it was more so like when negative things were happening with other relationships, and I think he's gonna bring this up. Like, I'll come home and I'll be like, let me see your phone. He's like, what you need to go through my phone for? Which one of your friends who done got caught cheating? And I'm like, just let me see your phone. Like, it would be, I would just bring all of their negative experiences home, and it would make me very overprotective of my marriage, or just extremely insecure. And I, just want to go through his phone, asking him questions, because I'm trying to prevent whatever issue I saw happening with someone else from happening in our home. And it was really like we were having catching a lot of backlash. Well, he didn't like it. So I've learned to just let our marriage have its own personality.
And then even with the good things, everybody has their own different personality, right? Somebody may be more extroverted versus another husband, right? So a lot of times when comparison, even with those good things, you tend to negate some of the other positive aspects, right? And a man may hear it saying, man, I'm trying my best, I'm doing this, but that's just not me, right? Because if you asked me to repeat what I said, I wouldn't be able to do it, because I just freestyled it because of what I was feeling for my wife at the time.
Right.
So maybe something, hey, how do you feel about me at this particular time? How would you describe me? What are some of the things that I give you that no one else would give you? So.
That's good. That's real good. That's real good. I can do that. I can definitely do that.
I'm not here to beat you up, honey. I'm not. This is not.
I when she came back and told me, I didn't look at it like in a negative way. It's kind of like, okay, well, I wish I'd have heard him say it.
Yes, exactly.
Because then I
what
could
he
have
said.
known like it was the moment, because certain things come out in the moment. So yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned, so in allowing your marriage to take on its own personality and not worry about someone else's marriage and bring home that negativity, in the moment that you have that negativity or you have those feelings and you recognize it, how do you communicate it? Even though he knows, okay, which one of your friends got caught cheating, how do you just communicate, like, do you ever go back and apologize and say, okay, honey, I shouldn't have put you through that, or this is where I was at, this is where I was at. How do you communicate to him to help him understand that it was you, it was never him?
So that goes back to,
Oh, Chris, like, she don't apologize, that's for sure.
that's exactly what he's thinking. And that goes back to knowing the personality of your marriage. Because I apologize, just not with words. I have other ways of saying my bad.
Like you want some, like she put that lingerie on when she knows she wrong, huh?
Yeah.
She pull out the whole gawk and everything.
Make some enchiladas or something.
What's understood don't need to be explained, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm the same way. I'm learning to do better, but I learned from Patrick, because Patrick is really good about apologizing. He don't want to go to sleep. He want to talk about everything right now. I need a minute to process it and be in my black girl mode and attitude and stuff. And then a couple days, we'll get around to it.
Yeah, it takes too long, her black girl mode.
Don't acknowledge.
No, it does. It do. You sit in it and it's like, I'm feeling you're thinking on it too long.
Yeah.
Like, if we talk about it right now, guess what? It's over and we're still moving. We're not waiting on the black girl mode to go away.
See, I think I am more like Patrick, though. Like, I like to address things in the moment. And I think you're more of a...
I need to process. Give me a moment.
See, when you do it now, you have to be ready for the now. So you're still on 10, I should say. But I'm ready for the on 10, because it's kind of like, we're going to knock them numbers down so fast once we start
That's
communicating
how I
about
think.
it.
But then you can get to 20.
Because I'm saying, right, you process because you're on 10, I don't need to hear anything else. I'm going to start cursing. Just let me process and look at me, right? Is that how you are, Chris?
I need time to process. I need time to figure out, hey, what could I have done differently? But right afterwards, I'm thinking about how she wrong.
Yes.
Right? It's like, I'm like, she dead wrong. Wrong with two left shoes. And that's what I'm thinking, right?
I'm not that
I need time
wrong,
to process.
though.
So do you give her that phone, though? When she say give you the phone, you give it to her?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my phone, there's...
Yeah, that shows there's nothing. A person that's hiding and pulling it back and why you want it, and something in there hiding. They're hiding.
I mean, now I don't even think about his phone. But early on, I think maybe our first probably 3 years in marriage, it was a lot, because a lot of our friends, we were all getting married around the same time. And I think that's when a lot of comparison starts. When people think, when you're all on the same page, it's easy for comparison to flare up, whether it's whose wedding was the best, what dress is gonna be the best, who had the best bridal shower. Like, it's just like comparison galore. And I think that that's why so when people started having issues, I was like, oh Lord, like, is this also all of us being in the same space? Like, when is it gonna be our turn? And not to say we didn't have our stuff, because we had our stuff, but because we all started the same way and kind of started at the same time, it was easy to start to feel like, well, it's just a matter of time before we have that exact same issue. So I would want to like try to hurry up and jump in front of it. I didn't think like, oh, this is never gonna be our issue. I'm like, well, it just happened to this person, just happened to that person. Yep, and so I'm like, let's jump in front of the bullet now. Whereas he's like, there's no bullet. Like, there's nothing to jump in front of, at least not that one. That's not our problem. We may have one, but it's not that one, so.
That's good. That's a good way to look at it too. I think a lot of people do that and don't even realize it. You just adapt other people's issues and fears, and we just take them and run with them.
Bring them right home with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got a question, honey?
I do. I have a good question.
So honey's first time being on set, so you guys welcome him to say something,
Yes.
okay?
But it's going to get easier and smoother. But I do have a question, and I'm going to direct it to both of you. My question is, how can you use communication to maintain a healthy and strong marriage over time? Because you said you've been married 11 years, right?
Yeah, I think the way we started out led us to some of that, right? From our first date, it was, hey, here are the cards, right? I have an ugly hand. All right, we were playing spades by 2, maybe a possible, right?
Oh, Chris, that was your hand?
That was my hand, all right? But here are the cards.
But I was the high joker, so.
I know that's right.
As long as your partner got you, you can win the game.
So we started out that way. Going throughout some of the things, it's been a challenge, right? Because we're not really taught how to communicate, right? So I was one of those, and I'm still trying to figure out, how do I communicate certain things, feelings, emotions, or how do I listen to my wife, right? Because that's a part of communication too. So it's a consistent and constant learning process. But we started out saying, hey, let me lay it all out on the table and start from there.
And I think a lot of people, to your point, right, everybody thinks that communication is verbal. You can communicate in multiple ways. Even for me, with my relationship with God, I don't pray well out loud. Speaking, I don't, as much as people are like, oh, you're such a great speaker, like, it takes a minute for me to warm up to communicate verbally, which is why I struggle with verbal communication, because I have a hard time sometimes finding my words. Like, I can feel it, I know what I'm feeling, I know what I'm thinking, but sometimes it just comes out really bad. and if it's filtered through anger, it's gonna be even worse. So communication for me, it can be written, it can be in body language, right? One of the things that my husband does every morning is he tells me that he loves me and I'm seen, but he doesn't do that with his words. Is every morning he's gonna come home with my Starbucks order.
Okay.
Every single morning. And if he does not bring me Starbucks home, I know we're in a bad place. I know he's feeling, I can tell he's feeling some kind of way, because where's my Starbucks? Like, if we had an argument, I'm like, oh, you acting funny. You didn't bring me my Starbucks this morning.
Get some Folgers today.
Right. Or even with physical cues, right? You know, if your husband walk past you and don't touch that butt, honey. Exactly.
Funny you say that. I just did that, but I had something in both hands, and she said, what's wrong?
I said something wrong with your hands?
Yeah.
You just don't walk past without touching.
Both hands. I'm like,
I work hard for this. Sure.
So communication, in my opinion, comes in various forms, and I think as couples, we have to learn each other's communication style, because some people want to sit and talk and map it out. And my husband is a great oral communicator. And early on in our marriage, I used to feel like I needed a lawyer to talk to him. I'm like,
Oh gosh.
he about to rip everything I'm about to say apart. So I would just be like, okay, I know he's gonna come in this angle, so I'm gonna have this one. I'll call my friend, I'm like, look, he gonna try to say this, so how should I respond when he say this? But now, my communication style with him is very just, sometimes I don't say anything and he knows like, okay.
Oh my goodness. We're like the same swap. You and Patrick are exact same. He literally will be like, if I say this, she gonna direct this way, so I better be ready for this. And I'm like you, I'm coming with a spreadsheet. I gotta talk with a spreadsheet.
I know it.
Yeah, it happens that way. I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is us in reverse.
Yeah.
You know, we
In
flipped
reverse.
it because
Because I need to get to the root of it. So I got questions to get me down there.
But the thing is, you're getting to your root of it, and that's the problem. Like
No, it's y'all. It's y'all root. You let Chris understand what it is.
No, y'all want us to get to your root instead of our root, and that's why we're like, it feels like okay, I need an attorney or a defense
I have to
attorney
be
or
ready for
somebody.
the next, because it's more than just this question.
Oh, he thinks that.
Every time, because it leads another direction. So this is the setup.
For me, it is. Right? Let me be honest.
That's not.
That's the first step is admitting.
I'm walking you down this path because I'm a pounce on you,
Chris,
right?
you're
It is a
pounce.
setup.
It's not a setup for me. I literally just want to know.
See, she has to get to that where she they say that's the first step, admitting he's there.
I don't even go down the road. I'm like, I'm not even turning left at this point.
We think that communication alone is the key to a relationship or a marriage, but it's really not. It's comprehending. Because if I can't comprehend what you're saying, then you're just talking for nothing. So you said, now I know that. So I don't even have to go down that road with him because you comprehend how he communicates and vice versa, but that's the missing link. People don't comprehend. I need to understand, tell me, which is why there's so many questions. Tell me why you feel this way. What happened as a child? So help me understand so that I can comprehend what you're telling me.
But if what we're talking about is in the now, why we got to go back to when I was a child?
Because I need to understand why you just did that. Like, what did your mother
Because
do
why you
to
want to
make
be
you?
my counselor all of a sudden? Like,
So you understand it.
I totally understand. Especially, so my husband is a pastor, and I'm like, okay, don't pastor me right now. So I've had to tell him, don't pastor me. I'm not asking you to be my coach, my business coach, my mentor. Just talk to me as my husband. Take all those hats off, and let's just have a conversation. So sometimes how people go out into the world, you have to remember to take those hats off when you come home. Because you can bring those communication styles to the table.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, because she comes home, you know, she runs the show.
Yeah.
This right here, her show.
Yeah.
So she brings that home sometime, and that's how it flows. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And
In the
thank you
midst
for
of-
agreeing. Yes.
In the midst of conflict, what is your foundation? I know that you're a pastor, and are you a minister, or you just speak?
I should say I'm a disciple.
Okay,
I
you're a
introduce people to Jesus, and whatever you do with that introduction is your business.
Listen, and you bring it. You be introducing them, okay? Baby, the way you do it. So in the midst of conflict, because people are so quick to say pray about it, which we're gonna pray about it, but in the midst of that conflict, what is your true solid foundation to get you back on the same page?
Well, initially, I would pray about it, but what I prayed has changed, right? So I'd be like, God, fix her, right? But that's not what I pray now. Okay. And now I flipped it. I'm like, God, help me, fix me, because I need a new perspective most of the time. I also need to understand how I can do some things differently, right? But I've also learned that as long as I'm worried about me, He'll take care of her. Right, so, you know, I have to fix me, and that's what I focus on now. And I think that has dramatically changed our communication style in our marriage.
I would agree 100%. And I would say that because early on in our marriage, I could tell that he felt like I was the one that needed to be fixed. And I can tell I can definitely feel the shift of accountability now. And when we're having issues or whatever, I can tell that I'm not a project. See, we have an 8-year age difference. So when we got married, my husband was more experienced in a lot of things, and he's been married before. So there were just so many other experiences that he brought to the table that I didn't have. And early in the marriage, I would feel like a project. But now I can definitely feel that shift where I feel like I have a partner and not necessarily like a husband, mentor. I don't know. It was weird. I didn't like it. I'm like, you're not my daddy. And I would say also for me, it's, I would have to reset. Like what you were saying about Cherie, like she's running a lot of things when she leaves the home. And sometimes I can bring that persona home too. So for me, my default is to go back to being feminine, like taking all of that extra rah-rah down and bringing it back down to the,
I love it.
like bringing that softness back in,
I'm
because
like, don't touch me like that. We on camera, man.
it changes everything. Because, you know, a lot of times in our marriages, the men, they do feel like they have to be a little defensive when you're with a strong woman, because they're trying to make sure they're maintaining power in the home. Yeah. But when you de-escalate internally, they don't have to do all the extra to make sure that you're not overstepping the power that's supposed to be established in the house. So for me, it's like, okay, I don't have to be all of that. I had to be that, what I had to be to survive outside of these doors. I don't have to be that in my home. Like I can be soft, I can be free, I can be protected. I don't have to have my guards up. And so that's been my thing. When we have those hard moments, I am gonna make sure I get my point across, but I also try to remember to go back to like, okay, girl, soften up a little bit. You being too.
I'm so glad you said that though, because there are so many alpha females right now. There's so many women in leadership is just taking over, and we do have that rah-rah. And I don't even think we give ourselves a moment to look at the safety net that we have in our own home with our spouses. We really do come home, and it takes a minute to sit and think and say, oh, wait a minute, you know, I'm good. He's not here to hurt me, like I'm good. So there are a lot of women still challenging to do that what you're doing. Even myself, I still like have to remind myself, like just let him, but it takes a few days. But it's a process.
And if you've grown up, and I don't know your background, but I grew up where my dad always told me to be independent. You don't let a man take care of you. My dad would tell me, you don't even ask a man for a piece of bubble gum. So for me, I'm like, I gotta have my own bubble gum. I gotta have my own money. Like, you don't let a man do X, Y, and Z. So when I got married, I had to keep reminding myself that what it took to be Ebony Office is not the same as Ebony King. Like, Ebony Office is my maiden name, and all of the things that I had to do to be Ebony Office were great, but Ebony King is a new woman, and I have to learn her identity now, so.
Okay, so now I know that you all just got here to Atlanta. You relocated from Dallas, right? Dallas. And so in that, I'd love to hear about transitions, because we really only hear the negative side. And even if there was a rebuttal in it, how did you become to where you are now? When it was decided that you were going to move, who made the decision? Who benefited from it? And who rebuked it?
So the move really, and I probably have to pull out my tissue, because so for me, I was driving. We were in Dallas, and we were both very active in ministry. But as I was driving, I started to feel extremely thirsty, like I had ice in my cup. Anybody like Kool-Aid? I love Kool-Aid. Well, I used to drink Kool-Aid all the time. And you know when it get low and you keep shaking and you trying to make it give you some more, but it's not. And that's how I was feeling. And I felt the Holy Spirit just telling me that I've reached my max in Dallas. And I'm like, okay, there's another part of me that needed to be developed elsewhere. And I was just like, well, I'm married. I can't just up and move. Like if I were single, that would be completely different. But I grew up in Dallas. My husband is from Houston. He's lived in other states. I've never lived anywhere outside of Texas. I went to college in Texas, elementary, middle school, high school, everything. That's all I knew. So my growth, in a lot of ways, had hit a peak. And I called my husband and I was nervous because I'm thinking like, we have a church. He's not gonna be okay with us moving. And I told him, I was like, babe, it's probably going back to the communication style. If I were single, I would have moved to New York by now. And he's like, right. And I was like, I just feel like I need more exposure. I need to get out of this bubble. And he said, moving isn't off the table. And I was really surprised. And I think I fell in love like at another level in that moment. Like you have moments in your marriage and your relationship where you're like, okay, this is a new something. This is something felt very different. I felt like I fell in love all over again. And I just think even from that moment forward, just him saying that before us even making a move, sometimes you just need the person to say, okay, say something, right? And I just needed him to hear him say that was enough to like sow a seed in me, to let me know like he values my dreams too. He values my growth, and our marriage is not just about him being in the spotlight, but he's willing to create space so that I can thrive and be all that I want to be too. And that that did something in me, and I'll let you pick up from there.
Well, I think she thought I was married to the church. And many pastors and many pastors' wives, they go through that, right? Where you're married to the church. But I'm not married to the church, right? And I'm not gonna die for the church. Jesus did that. So, and at the time, I already knew, although we had planted a church there, I knew that that wasn't it. So I responded and say, here's some of the places where God has been dealing with me in regards to our next. And so we basically fasted and prayed for a whole week, and we said, hey, let's talk about what we hear when we come back after the fast. And we had confirmation, put our house on the market. We had a bunch of offers within 24 hours. Wow. And when we hopped on the plane, we were like, uh-oh. We found a place it was in the middle of COVID, so we found a place on the internet, and we came here.
Wow.
The best decision we could have made.
Yeah. I love that. And so since you've been here, you haven't started another church, but have they been smooth? Have they been rocky? Have you questioned God? Have you blamed her for anything that did not go smooth?
No, I never blamed her, right? I think during that time, because we were very active in ministry, very active in the community, I think it was a rest that I needed, right? So I definitely needed the rest, and it was an environment that she needed. So I never blamed her. We were not had competing visions or anything of that sort. So, but there were some struggles, there were some challenges.
Yeah, the guy that initially placed the offer in our house, he actually died of COVID. So we had to put our house back on the market, and then we had that crazy snowstorm or ice storm in Texas. So that was the thing.
If you wouldn't have asked, he might not have said anything about the move. So once you said it, it was kind of like, I've been thinking on it too. That opened him up to communicate with you about what he was thinking. So I was just sitting there thinking like, that's some good stuff. Like,
I think a lot of times we do that. We may have something that we're dealing with as men, and we just need you to, if you speak up, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Noted. Okay, so I have, you got a question?
So my question would be to you guys, how can you improve communication in a marriage? How can you improve it?
How can we improve our own communication or
Y'all
our advice
communication.
to other people?
Both.
Oh, okay.
I would say first, be committed to it. Right, so be committed to listening and understanding and hearing the nonverbals. So understanding when there's stress, when there's anxiety. I know my wife, sometimes she may have other things, other variables that have nothing to do with me that may affect her communication style. Same here. So paying attention to those things. So being intentional about listening to the nonverbals and everything else going on.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm learning that. I invade space. So sometimes she need a moment, but I want that moment. So I'm learning to give her that moment. So yeah, that was good. That was really good.
And I would say, don't shy away from conflict. I think one of the biggest challenges I had early on in the marriage is that I didn't want us to have challenges because we were so new, and I thought that if we had problems or if we argued that meant that something was wrong and maybe we weren't meant for each other. But now I've learned that it is okay to disagree. It's okay to not be on the same page, because sometimes that means that God wants to put you in a completely different book. And sometimes when we are just always trying to comply, you don't know how you may be minimizing the overall potential of your marriage. And had I not spoken up, like you said, about wanting to move, right? Being here has opened up so many doors, not just for us, but also for our children. God has positioned us to do something amazing for our legacy, but that started with speaking up and not being afraid of conflict, not being afraid to challenge what may be the current status quo of your marriage. And I see so many women who have all of these things, that all of these issues are, he don't do this, he didn't say this. And I'm like, oh, did you tell him? No, I ain't say nothing. I don't want to say. No, say something, say it, and maybe find another way to say it. And there's a time and place for everything. And I think, again, intimacy is such a great time to communicate. Sure is. It's such a great intimacy before or after, or or during. Yes. It's a great, you're
Don't
both.
ruin the mood now.
Well, you're not going to ruin the mood. That's the point, because you want to keep the mood where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
So,
Pans, you talk about a move in the moment. It's, like, we moving right now, so there you're right. There's a time and place for
yeah, it's the time and place for
conversation.
everything, but I've definitely learned to be okay with speaking up, with having a voice, with saying, I want this too. I married a very confident, very powerful, very well-known man, and I married him at a time when I didn't know who I was. And now that I know who I am, I also have to say, hey, here's what's also on my vision board. Now, how can we push these boards together to create a big picture for us as kings?
Absolutely.
But I didn't know I had a vision board at first.
Wow. And your vision board taught her that she had one?
Definitely.
Love that. See? That's the sexy part, when you can love from your man, okay? Yeah. Before we get out of here, I have a game, and it's really quick. I just got 3 questions, and this is where you get to act out. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question, and you have to give me the reaction that Ebony would have given you. Okay, so.
Oh, that's easy.
Yes.
I got that one.
How would Ebony respond if you went a full day without calling her or communicating with her all day? Not answering any of her calls or anything. When you walk in the house, what's it gonna be like?
Babe, you sure tried it. You tried it. How you not gonna answer my call? Babe.
I do not say babe like that.
You tried it.
You tried. At least she ain't even worried about nothing. Go, you tried. I don't know where you
And you
been.
hit her right on, because she don't even want to look at you right now. She's like, okay.
I don't say babe. You always say babe so country. Do I sound that country? Okay.
You are from Texas, so I don't know. Ebony, how would Chris respond if you told him that I just don't think this is gonna work between us? I think 11 years is enough.
Cool.
No, I don't see that.
I'm 100% him, because he wouldn't take me seriously. I know he wouldn't take me seriously, so he'll just be like, okay, cool.
All right, and then the last question, back to you, Chris, which Ebony kind of talked about it a little bit, but I was gonna ask if your ritual, something that you did for her every day, which we learned with Starbucks, how would Ebony respond if you came without that Starbucks?
You being petty.
Oh, okay.
She would just call me petty.
It's so petty.
Yeah. And I'd be like, yeah. Yeah.
It's so
I'm
petty.
being petty right now.
Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
so
yeah.
petty.
But then that also lets you know something going on.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's so petty.
All the way down to the Starbucks. Okay, just get her a gift card, Chris. Okay, just so she can always have it. Buy her some stock or something. He has to bring it. Oh, okay. You have to have it. It's just like my forehead. If he don't kiss me when he leave for work, it's a problem. I'm up in the blinds like, something dizzy. Is he sick? I don't know what happened. He just walked out the house. And if he does that, he would turn around and come back and kiss my forehead because it's gonna be some problems, repercussions or something, I don't know. So I get it. I thank you guys so much for
Thank you.
coming, and it's been
Thank
a pleasure
you.
talking to you.
Look at you loosen up now.
Yeah, no, you're off the clock, you're off the clock.
Yeah.
Listen, this episode is brought to you by Tabitha's Tea Party, a faith-based tea party. You don't want to miss it. All the information is on the screen right now. Please go and follow them and support them. It's a nonprofit. They would love to have your support. And Ebony King here is the founder of Tabitha's Tea Party. Until the next time, we have said something, and we'll see you in the next episode.